A lot of people are sleeping in their work, in their jobs, in their life, in their habits. They don't do what they should do, and they don't understand the importance of the work that they do, especially in healthcare and medicine. It's crazy, but it's like that. I always think back to a conversation I had years ago with a student of mine, and we were talking about the difference between working in a private business and working in a state or government business. Now, some work is in the middle. Some work is a little bit private and a little bit state. So it's not black and white. And in our conversation, my student, I think my student was sleeping in their head because we were talking about her work. And one important question in work is a famous Latin question, which is qui bono, who benefits? Qui bono, who benefits, right? And I like to ask people this question. I think it's a really interesting question. So I asked her, from your work in your job, what do you do? And she told me what she did. And then I asked her, and who benefits from this, your work? And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, but this is important. No, this is very important, who benefits, because people need something positive.
Yes.
Work must create and produce results. And so I asked her, okay, who do you work for? Do you work for a private organization or do you work for a government organization? Because I think a lot of people in government organizations are they're sleeping at work. And people in the private organizations are a little bit more, I don't know, active, a bit more active, a little bit more doing things. And they are more motivated to do things. The results, the profits are bigger here. So the personal profits are bigger there. So I asked her, who do you work for? And she said, well, I work for a private company. And I said, yes, but your private company has a contract with the government to produce the software. It was a software company. And so basically you work for the government because you have a contract. You don't work for a government organization, but you work for a company that has a contract with the government. So it's the same thing. And I said, you have to think like you are working for the government in this situation. And she said, no, I work for a private company. I said, but there's no difference. There's no difference between working for the government and working with a company that has a contract with the government. It's the same. You still work for the government. And when you work for the government, 99% of people don't know and don't understand qui bono, who benefits. They're like, well, I do my job.
Yes.
And people don't think. I want to speak in Slovak now. A čo ďalej, yeah.
Čo ďalej, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, what next?
Mm-hmm.
What next? What are you going to do next? What are you building? How does it work? Why is it good? Why is it bad? How can you make it better? And and I in my experience, a lot of people they go to work, they work,
Mm-hmm.
they put energy into their day, but they're not very, there's a word, cognizant. The processes, the wheels of the brain
Mm-hmm.
are not turning completely when people are working. And so the result is after the scan, the cancer is there. But the doctor is like, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because the doctor sees, I don't know, like 40, 50, 60 of these every day. And and you don't always focus 100% because
Mm-hmm.
life is complicated, right?
Yes, yes.
You have to do this and this and this
Mm-hmm.
and this and do your work at the same time. It's not easy.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's not easy. And in jobs like the health service, the health sector, maybe also in education, maybe also in places like police departments or fire stations, or working as a um, you know back to hospitals, nurses and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult. It's really difficult. Um, and and with health, it's even more complicated because it's not black and white, right?
Yes, yes. Never is it like all right.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
LinkedIn.
there are many questions and a lot of question marks,
Yes. Yes.
a lot of
Mm-hmm.
unknown things.
Mm-hmm.
Patients will say, why?
Mm-hmm.
How? And the doctors will be, well, it's there, but we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. It could be because of s- cell phone radiation. It could be the
Mm-hmm.
sun. It could be psychological. Could be
Mm-hmm.
it could be something from now. It could be genetic history.
Mm-hmm.
We we
Yes.
just don't know. It's so complicated. It's something we try to simplify it, and you can't simplify health. It can't be done. In the 1980s, uh, there was a lot of talk about AIDS, AIDS, antibody
I, yes. Mm-hmm.
immune deficiency syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. AIDS is not a disease. AIDS
Mm-hmm.
AIDS is a title.
Mm-hmm.
Antibody immune deficiency syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Antibodies, we know what they are. Immune system, we know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Deficiency, we don't have enough antibodies in our immune system. Syndrome, it doesn't mean anything. Okay. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? The name does not tell us what is the situation or the problem. And many people had many health problems. Lots of different health problems. A big spectrum of health problems.
Mm-hmm.
And it all came under the title antibody immune deficiency syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a problem with your body. We don't know why. You've
Mm-hmm.
got this. We we can try to help you. Try to take these drugs. Maybe they will help. Maybe not. And some of the drugs helped, and some of the drugs didn't help.
Mm-hmm.
right? And still today,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
We don't. The same problems exist, but we don't hear
Mm.
anything about it. The same problems
Yeah.
exist today, and we don't hear anything about it. So it's crazy.
Uh, you know what is autoimmunity disease?
Yeah, that's
Autoimmune.
it's the same as
No, same
AIDS,
shit.
antibody
Yes.
immune deficiency syndrome, autoimmune disease. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Yeah, the nature nature evolves. It moves. It
Mm-hmm.
changes. We have this slow evolution,
Mm-hmm.
and the evolution happens at a cellular level, at a very small level,
Mm-hmm.
and and also the diseases are at a cellular level, at a very small level. And I think that always there will be some level of problem because health is not something which is stable. Both mental and physical health are
Mm-hmm.
not they're not stable. They're always in
Mm-hmm.
balance.
Mm-hmm.
Every day it changes,
Yes.
just
Yes.
like the weather. Every day
Mm-hmm.
it changes, and people want to be healthy and people want to help, but we still don't understand everything, and science gives us some information, but
Mm-hmm.
never a complete picture. It's never complete. It gives us a little bit of information here, a little bit of information
Mm-hmm.
here, a little bit of information here. The technology
Mm-hmm.
allows us to understand the physical environment much more, um, and and it does allow us to help people. But it's it's crazy, the whole system, and full of contradictions. Many people today will live to be 100, 110 years old with the drugs that they take. It's a good business, right?
Yes, yes, they are very, very big business.
Yeah, it's a good business and a big business because you don't want your patient to die,
Mm,
because your patient is your source of funding, right? It's where your money comes from, the patients
mm,
who are consuming the drugs. And the longer your patients live, the more money
mm,
you make from
mm.
selling drugs to people. It's very interesting, the whole system.
I think that very important is what we eat. Food is very important uh, for our health.
Mhm. Yes, yeah. I agree that the food is at the center. The food is at the heart of part of the problem. Now, I think I think there is more to this topic, and this is just my observation. My observation is that I think the human brain, is actually not here. This is quite controversial. I don't think the brain is here. Okay. Now, something physical is there. Let's call it. Say that the brain is here, but the mind is not there. Okay, because there's the physical and the non-physical, right? So I think the brain. I think something is here. Something is here, and something is here in the stomach. And I think that these elements work together.
Yes, yes.
And that when we put food into our body, our brain is affected, but it's our stomach that processes everything. It's our stomach that turns food into energy that we then use to repair the body. And if you don't have the right nutrition and elements, then you are not able to repair the body correctly. Easy to say, difficult to live in that way. And so, in a perfect world, we would live healthily. Now, it doesn't work like that, though. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that because there are people who are older than 100 and they are drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes or cigars. They have not done a lot of physical exercise in their lifetime. They've had very sedentary jobs where they sit down, and that should not be. That absolutely should. Logically, that should not exist, but it does exist. So it's far more complicated. Crazy things happen. A lot of sports people die young. A lot of people who do sport die young because they destroy their bodies through overactivity. They do too much. Marathon runners, sprinters. The world record holder for the women's 100-meter race. You know what happened to her? Her heart exploded.
Yeah.
This was the fittest female athlete in the world. Right? Yeah. She ran very fast. In fact, her world record has lasted for 30 years. 30 years, her world record for running 100 meters. But the result was, that's crazy. People like a lot of famous athletes have, they have sports people have problems with their bones and their joints and their elbows and their knees and they have all these problems. And they're the healthy people, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, some businessman who's like really fat and slow, they live to be 70 or 80, right? Very interesting. It's very interesting. This is the uncertainty. We don't know. Yes, maybe you live another 30 years, maybe 40. Like my mother is 70. I forget now. 75. I can't even remember now. I can't remember. Right. So she's 74, 75 now. If she moves regularly, if she takes whatever she needs to take from her doctor, she could live to be 100, right?
Okay.
She could have another 25 years. Mentally, who knows? Because that's a different story, right? You can look. The brain can be dead, but the body can continue. Okay.
Yes.
Right. I see it every day. Okay. Just look at Facebook. Just social media. Right. There you go. There's people there, but I don't know where their brains are. Like zombies. They are like.
We will be same.
Yeah, look, it's very possible. You have to look at that possibility that with modern medicine, people don't understand this. With modern medicine, 40
Mm.
is the new 20.
Mm.
40 is the new 20 because with all the information we have about health,
Mm.
you can be 40 like me
Mm-hmm.
and have a relatively healthy body like you're 20, 25 years old. Yeah?
Mm.
No, it's possible.
Yes.
And and this is a great opportunity for a lot of people because in the past, people died, say,
Mm.
60, 65, whatever. Yeah,
Yes.
it varies from country to country, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say 60, 65. When you were 40, that was two-thirds. That's 70%. You're 70% of the way through your life, right?
Mm.
70% gone, 30% left.
Mm.
Now, 40 is the new 20 because maybe you live to be 100.
Mm-hmm.
40 is only 40%. You've still got 60% more.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
And because there are new and different opportunities, because there's different ways to connect with people, because you can stop if you want to, but you don't have to stop work. You can still continue if
Mm.
you like. Then then some people, and it's healthy to continue to work. It's
Mm-hmm.
better to work than not work.
Yes, of course.
It's better to work than not
Mm.
work. Um, then then who knows where the limit is? You stop where you want to stop.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
You stop where you, yeah. Well, this is my observation. I think
Mm-hmm.
like for 20 years, I observed the world. Okay, right.
Mm-hmm.
I looked around. I met people. I talked with them,
Mm.
and the result of the communication is that there is, there was this problem in the past that you needed to do everything before 40
Mm-hmm.
because there was one chance in one direction. Now
Mm.
the world is more complex with many, many, many more things changing.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
don't have to do everything before you're 40 because, between the ages of 60 and 70, you can get on a boat and go on a cruise and see
Mm.
half the world if you want. So there's you there's no need to rush and do everything quickly. People had their first job at the age of 15 in the past. Now sometimes
Mm.
people only get their first job at the age of 25.
Mm.
The world is different. It's changing. And 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 our generation
Mm.
is the first generation to experience this in the modern world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting problem. It's an interesting dilemma
Mm. Mm.
because some people will say this is not good. Everybody will live longer. There will be more people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
I don't know. The world is a big place. There's a lot of space, so um, it's not overpopulated. You could take the entire world, everybody in the world, and you could put them in the state of Texas in the
Mm.
United States. You could put
Mm-hmm.
everybody in the world in the state of Texas, and there would still be lots of room for everybody. So there's a lot of space on our planet to develop and be creative and to do things. And it's it it's all theoretically it's all positive. But then in your job you see
Mm.
the other
Mm.
side.
Mm-hmm. Yes.